Hi folks, Captain Rutlidge here once again with the final TIPB video commentary for this summer. Thank you for everyone for watching through these commentaries, and be sure to tune in on Thursday, September 15th for the new season of This Is Public Broadcasting. In the meantime, here is part 1 of the Arthur&Iceberg, the collaboration I did with Arthur&BusterBFFL. You can check out their channel in the link in the description, or if I can put that in the little bubble up there. Anyhow, this video originally aired in March of 2022, and here we go. So, Season 5 was the first time I started putting these disclaimers at the start of the video, and I remade them for every video, hence the different fonts and frequent misspellings. I apologize for those. But this intro was specifically made for Season 5, and I like it so much I just might use it for Season 6. When we have all the shows here, that's Newton's Apple, and of course the 70s PBS logo, with Masterpiece Theater, Carl Sagan, there's This Old House, Reading Rainbow, Nova, another PBS logo, American Experience, Arthur, Sherry Lewis and Lamb Chop, new logo, Antiques Roadshow, Zoom, Rick Steves Europe, Clifford, another logo, Ken Burns National Parks, Nature, Chef's Life with Vivian Howard, Odd Squad, and PBS Kids Family Night. Maybe I should include the new PBS Kids logo in the new intro. I don't know. We'll have to see. But these two avatars of me in PBS Kids style were done by none other than Dre Higby, a fan of the series, who also does work for Phantom Strider, well-known top 10 lister here on YouTube. As for the idea for this video, I originally found the Arthur&Iceberg while scrolling around the internet late at night, and thought it was pretty cool, so I researched it, wrote down as much as I could, gleaned as much as I could off of Twitter, and I got in contact with Viv from Arthur&BusterBFFL asking about wanting to do a collaboration on this video, and they seemed interested. So in August of 2021, we got together and on a Skype call, pulled up the script on Google Docs, and sort of formatted how the episode would go. And right here we have the Thomas Iceberg used as an example. And of course, with our favorite Arthur characters, Viv's favorite character is Fern, mine is Buster. And so, taking a leaf out of the episode Binky Rules, I played the more hard-boiled 30s detective, while Viv was more the Sherlock Holmes type that Fern enjoys. Usually, I like to create these videos far in advance of when they're going to be shown on YouTube. So, filming for this particular episode started in late January and early February, as soon as I finished my Valentine's Day episode. And I actually designed the outfit that Viv was wearing there, with the Sherlock Holmes hat and cape. This particular segment is a parody, of course, of Masterpiece Mystery. I found the original Masterpiece Mystery theme and laid that over the segment with the Arthur characters that was parodied in the Binky Rules episode. It's very entertaining to see all the characters in this particular fashion. I had to alter the speed somewhat in order to fit Viv's dialogue in, but it worked pretty well. And now it's my turn. I always enjoy dressing up like a 30s detective, and for the Buster-style intro, I had to slow things down considerably because I'm a fairly slow talker at times. But I think it works. It works just well.
That's me, Captain Rutlidge, private eye walking the broadcasting of the public.
In the future, Viv and I hope to do a few more collaborations similar to this, but at the present we both have our schedules to deal with, so who knows? Maybe we'll do it in the future, maybe not. We'll just have to wait and see. But in the meantime, it's time to start the iceberg. I chose the gloomiest, most mysterious music to introduce each layer of the iceberg. Of course, both Viv and I alternated for a few of these segments. Viv preferred a few of the scarier ones or creepier ones, say like Martian Blood, while I did a few more of the fan theory ones myself. While waiting for Viv to send their dialogue in, I recorded as much as I could on my own and did the video editing based off my own recordings. And then when I got Viv's recordings, I altered some of these scenes myself to fit their dialogue. Yes, Idina Menzel. I chose the joke name of Adele Dazeem here just as regular joke, but added the Elsa Let It Go so people knew what I was talking about. Are you having cake? I actually did that at work once. My supervisor was having a birthday and I walked past the office and with a few papers and said, "Yeah, I've got these results right here. Oh, are you having cake?" I don't know if the writers figured out how much of a cultural impact Mr. Ratburn has had on the world of Are You Having Cake. The Postcards from Buster, I watched that quite a lot on PBS Kids Go when I was younger. However, the episodes were usually on while I was still coming home from school, so I didn't see the whole episodes unless of course, I was on school vacation. And I think Arthur's Almost Live Not Real music video, or music festival, is probably one of my most favorite Arthur episodes when I was a kid, because it was just so random, so odd, and so enjoyable. In DW's Snowball, of course, I have to mention that the script was originally written in August of 2021 and finalized in January and February of 2022, so it was a bit before the final few Arthur episodes premiered on PBS Kids. So I didn't know yet about the final episode with the resolution of where the snowball went. In fact, it was stolen by Nadine before it was taken by aliens. However, considering that the episode itself was pretty non sequitur, I decided not to include it. I don't think that episode is canon myself. However, the theft by aliens, I kind of do. And April 9th, I remember this episode really well when I was younger. Looking back on it as an adult, I can appreciate how well written it is and how it can help children get over traumatic experiences, especially nowadays with the recent school shootings in Uvalde, Texas, and the supermarket shooting in Buffalo, New York. As for Arthur's big hit, I don't know if I enjoyed this episode as much as a kid. I just thought it was not handled very well. As Brain says here, it's not a good idea to show hitting on a kid's show. So, Mr. Ratburn's Wedding, I actually missed this episode when it first premiered during the Arthur Marathon. And Spanky, rest in peace. As for Mr. Ratburn getting married, I made a commentary on the video earlier after it premiered in 2019. I thought it was okay, to say the least. The Great McGrady, I remember the Lance Armstrong version. I have not seen the Slam Wilson version, but it is an excellent set of episodes. And rest in peace, Leah Ryan. You have your impact on the world of Arthur. I myself had an aunt who went through treatment for cancer as well as treatment for MS, so I kind of relate to what Arthur and the gang are going through in this particular episode. And here we come on to the next level, and I kind of made up this bit with the tip of the iceberg, as said by Deep Float. In part 2 of this episode, there's a segment where DW says, "And this is only the tail of the iceberg." That was a contribution that Viv gave to it that I liked so much that I just had to include it. And the aliens. Whatever you say about Arthur, their alien designs are pretty unique. Instead of just the standard gray aliens with the almond-sized eyes, they go out there with all the designs. And there was a segment on PBS Kids regarding these hidden names, and there were a few hidden names throughout Arthur, the series, such as Toll and Mall right there. And here we come to Arthur's missing pal. You guys know that I talked about this episode in 2019, so probably paste that link up here. It's just a bizarre movie. I remember watching it on PBS Kids Go when it came out, and it was just bizarre. And here we come to Mr. Lance Armstrong. Yikes. On the record, Lance Armstrong was a cancer survivor. In 1996, he was diagnosed with testicular cancer that spread up to his lymph nodes in his brain and probably would have killed him. However, he managed to survive, but around that time he also started doping, so yeah. Probably not the best thing for an appearance on Arthur. And here we have Shelley Barnes, the great Shelley Barnes of the Elwood City Circus. Striking resemblance, don't you think? And here we have Carl Gould, first premiered in When Carl Met George, and made several other appearances throughout the rest of the season of Arthur, including in the final season where he helps George figure out how to get into conversations, which was a pretty good episode. And Sugar Time, the Postcards from Buster episode, they don't want you to see, at least until it was released on YouTube. No, I never watched this episode when it first premiered because, well, the ensuing chaos that resulted from it. But I think the whole atmosphere in PBS has changed enough that even if it did air today, there might be a little kerfuffle, like with Mr. Ratburn's wedding, but it would be too big a deal. It's not like it's the main focus of the episode or anything. And, yep, here's the basis of our own detective personas. Myself as Buster Baxter Private Eye, and Viv as Fern Walters, or Fernlock Holmes, whatever you prefer. I really enjoyed this episode when it came out. Whenever there was Buster as a private eye, it was very entertaining. And you notice how I made the post about the WKRP vibes? I noticed that the DJ for that radio station looked a lot similar to the one from WKRP Cincinnati. Yeah, that should date me quite a bit by what television I watch. The Season 10 scavenger hunt on Arthur is one thing I remember very well because Season 10 premiered on PBS just as I finished 4th grade in school, and it was fun because me and my brothers, we'd be watching Arthur episodes, and as soon as a 10 popped up, look, 10! Oh, there's another 10! There's another 10! It was just so fun. This was one I had to look into when I was originally reading the Iceberg, and I'm surprised that the Arthur creators were able to get away with this, to be honest. And I honestly wonder what those fractals are supposed to be, whether they're just pieces of artwork or... I have no idea, but it's amazing to look at. And the funny thing about Omble, I believe in the Snowball episode in the final season of Arthur, they actually reference the whole story with the fang pipes and the clay Eiffel Tower and even the backpack, which appears in sort of Hall of Easter Eggs during the portion of episode where Bud and Buster are looking for DW Snowball. And Arthur's Nose, I myself, like many other children, read Arthur's Nose in elementary school, and thankfully for the re-release, Mark Brown included the timeline of how Arthur has evolved throughout the years, so that the kids don't get too confused. Speaking of the Arthur books, there were a number of Arthur episodes that were adapted into small chapter books for early readers that I absolutely devoured when I was in elementary school, just to get a few AR points. I don't know about you guys, but I think the whole accelerated reader program was kind of stupid, to say the least. Forced to read books you probably don't even care about to get meaningless points that affect your grade for some reason, but anyhow. The memes, the lovely memes. I had to look through the internet to find at least a few clean ones to show in this video, i.e. ones that don't refer to sex or drugs or alcohol. It was a challenge, but I stood up to the challenge. The green-tailed grebes. I remember watching this episode in one morning. And you are Arthur. Another episode I remember for how strange a concept it was. Just seeing the world through Arthur's eyes. Hey, there's a reference to another episode, but here we have Lydia Fox, who was in fact designed by a viewer of Arthur. And here's the picture right now that is currently on the Arthur Wiki. And the design was adapted pretty well. And while writing the script with Viv, they mentioned that they originally also designed a character for the particular contest. However, they didn't have the drawing with them anymore, so I included the whole "dang you, Postal Service" joke, which went over pretty well. Graphic blood. This was tough to figure out. I watched another Arthur Iceberg video to figure out what it could be, but this is the best that I could come up with. And next we come to Martin Spivak. The more I read about Martin Spivak, the more interested I became about Martin Spivak. All you need to know about Martin Spivak is that Martin Spivak is Martin Spivak. It's just so interesting how a simple joke character became a background mainstay in the world of Arthur. And also around this time I was really railing against the History Channel for their lousy shows, so the whole Ancient Aliens bit seemed a good fit for Martin Spivak's fake science show. And here's the clip from George of the Jungle. Ready? Ha 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 ha! Anyhow, Teenage Kate was another difficult one because, well, this is the only teenage version of Kate we see throughout the series. Banned in Alabama, of course you know about Mr. Rapper and the Special Someone not being shown on Alabama public television. It's not the first time that Alabama public television has refused to air shows. Back in the 70s, they were against showing footage of the Civil Rights Movement or the ongoing Vietnam War. But they're gradually improving, so maybe they will show Mr. Rapper and a Special Someone in the future. The strange formations of technology. The characters don't age, but the technology does.
TV sets, computers, and even cars and emojis.
Does anyone else speak George? No. This reminds me of around the playground that we used to make up other languages like Pig Latin or Ubby Wubby, to say the least, but they were fun brain exercises, but I don't think they went to the extent that they did in this particular episode. And the Arthur Story Contest. Another one of my favorites as a kid for all the strange stories and the new animation styles that came up. I didn't understand them as a kid, but now that I'm older, I understand them pretty well, and they're pretty hilarious. I think we did get a glimpse of 5,000 explosions in the supernova during the episode where Arthur and the gang try to make up a new holiday, although I don't think it was explicitly stated.
WAV. This is the sound effect used during the character imagination spots.
That was scary.
In Arthur's birthday,
I also wondered how square balloons were made when I was a kid. Either you need to blow square breaths, or you need a special younger brother named Rerun. Whenever I think square balloons, I think this clip from Happy New Year, Charlie Brown. And comic creator. Oh boy, did I have a ball looking at all of these comics and finding at least one clean one to show in this video. It was a monumental task, to say the least. A whole number of these comics are extremely not safe for work, such as one where Arthur and Mr. Reed completely cuss out DW, and I think another one where Buster sodomizes Pal. I think it's time to move on. As a kid, you think that a theme park made out of pizza is a pretty cool idea. But once you get older and you take a few food microbiology classes, you know it's not going to last forever. And people are not going to show up once it starts stinking terribly and you get raccoon infestations.
Not to mention the smell. And the bugs.
I'm certain there are a couple videos out there that talk about where Elwood City is located in the United States, but it is most definitely located in Pennsylvania, based off the fact that Arthur and the gang are able to visit an Amish colony in one episode, and in other episodes we see that Mr. Reed's family came from Ohio, which of course is close to Pennsylvania. And here we come to the adult cartoon parodies. I think this is one of the reasons why Arthur has such a cult following nowadays, simply for South Park, Beavis and Butthead, and Dexter's Lab parodies. The writers of the show definitely knew what they were doing, and they knew that this would get the attention of teenagers and adults who were probably babysitting kids, probably looking at a magazine while they're doing it, and looking up, hey, isn't that South Park? Next thing you know, the teenagers are watching Arthur while the kids are just going into the other room to, I don't know, play with building blocks, I guess.
Accuses Francine of being richest.
A what? A richest. Someone who's prejudiced against rich people.
When I was younger, I tried to fit a whole timeline into my head about which episode was the first one where Arthur and his friends were in third grade, which episode was the one where they ended in third grade. However, once you try, you realize it's a worthless task. You'll never get it correct. And eventually you just come to the conclusion that the whole thing is just a floating timeline. They're stuck in third grade for eternity, except for the one episode where they're not. But, yeah. And these clips are from an episode called In My Africa, which is a really strange episode, where the whole premise is DW making up a song about the nations of Africa, and strangely, a lot of live-action shooting as well of the various nations of Africa and the people therein. I guess they didn't have the animation budget to draw it all. And What Scared Sue Ellen? This was a slightly creepy episode from when I was a kid, but they handled it well enough to make it a great deal humorous. And is it strange that there are strictly human ghosts in a world inhabited by anthropomorphic animals? Anybody? Anybody want to comment on that? And the Tibble twins, in the first few episodes, they were the demon hell spawn of Mrs. Tibble's son. As you get older, the more you are worried about having kids based off children like the Tibble twins. Thankfully, though, they don't really exist, but I don't know. Sitting in church a few times, there were a few rowdy kids sitting in back of us a lot. And the Ghost of Lunch Tomorrow. It's very silly, but somehow it works. Or the Ghost of Bicycles Never Ridden. I prefer the Ghost of Lunch Tomorrow myself. Oh, and hey, there's number 10.
Never ridden? Boy, you picked the most obvious name you can, and people still don't get it.
One thing I'd like to point out with this episode in particular and other episodes of Season 5 of This Is Public Broadcasting is the new color backgrounds whenever we switch to 4:3 aspect ratio. In the past, we used to have the black bars taking up all that space, but I figured that the colored bars, not only would they possibly help against any copyright takedowns, but they'd also liven things up a little bit. And as you noticed during the Iceberg video, the deeper we get into the iceberg, the deeper the sidewall colors get. So that's a little something to take close attention to. Here we come to Maria. A very strange case of how a one-note background character graduated to a full episode of her own. And probably one of the better episodes of the Flash era of Arthur. And speaking of Flash, the Green Flash. As you notice, the color walls aren't visible here. I guess that's a mistake on my part. Either that or I downloaded a video that was in a 16:9 with the 4:3 aspect already.
I'd like to see that green
I don't know if anybody else has noticed, but not a whole lot of interspecies relationships in Arthur, for how progressive a show it has become. But considering that one dream sequence where Buster imagined Mr. Ratburn and his mother married and having children, that might be for the best. So, the lucky pencil. I remember as a kid that on the Arthur website there was a game of slide puzzles where you put together a slide puzzle while a song was playing from Arthur's Almost Real, Not Live CD. One of the songs in that was, of course, Lucky Pencil, which was a very catchy, almost Caribbean-sounding rhythm, which I think I still have stuck in my head to this day. That goes to show how that has lasted so well. And even though the Lucky Pencil only existed for just a single episode of Arthur, they did find some very creative ways for it to come back into the show, like, say, when Arthur's preparing to play Virtual Goose, even though it's the wrong color, or when DW is having her ear operation. The Baxter divorce is an interesting case. I doubt that it had anything to do with marital infidelity or anything like that, but simply because Bo Baxter's job as a pilot just put a strain on the marriage. It can happen sometimes. Mr. Ratburn being a vampire, I'm pretty certain all of us at one point or another had that one teacher in elementary school that everybody was afraid of getting. And I think Mr. Ratburn encapsulates that pretty well. A few times when I was in elementary school, the older kids would often tease and say, "Oh no, don't get that teacher, she's an old crab, she's evil, she'll probably lock you in a closet and leave you for dead." Of course, that's all just idle gossip around the playground. Thank goodness, too. And going in the same vein, there are often the folks when you're growing up who often pull jokes like, "Oh, did you remember to pay the toll to cross the road? It's $5. If you don't pay, you're going to jail." But thankfully, most of those types of folks that I remember growing up, they were kidding, of course. And funny enough here with Virtual Goose, there was a game on the Arthur website a long time ago based off of Virtual Goose, which was fun to play. However, once you got to the DW level, it got extremely difficult. You really had to think about what you were doing in the game itself. And oh, poor Mr. Morris, what 4chan has done to your image. It's just amazing how Arthur memes have taken on a life of their own outside of the television show itself, specifically in the case of Mr. Morris, or even in the whole "the ass was fat" meme, which was touched on in the second half of this video. And the cootie catcher, that's another one of those playground things that made it into the show, wasn't it? Because when you're about 8 years old, you learn how to make the paper fortune teller. Just choose a color, choose a number, choose a letter, and then it gives you your fortune. It was all good fun on the playground as kids, but I don't know if any of my friends ever thought that the predictions of these fortune tellers were perfectly gospel. As for the fright stuff, I have to say this is my favorite Halloween episode of Arthur. The hour-long special was fun as well, but this still holds a special place in my heart as the best Arthur Halloween episode, even if the ghosts can be a little eerie, and I don't know if anybody noticed how their heads were transparent. And here we come to Steven Crowder. Typically in my videos, I do not like to address political issues that much. Although I do kind of view myself as more of a centrist when it comes to left-right politics. And there are some people like Crowder who kind of get on my nerves for overly advocating divisive rhetorics that just serve to divide people even more. And even how he talks down to some of the people who are watching or who are being interviewed, it's very disrespectful, in my opinion. He's a decent voice actor and probably a great family man, but I do not agree with his politics. Let's just put it like that. And the sock exchange. It's probably a creative idea, the sock exchange. Where all those missing socks go. Thankfully, I don't have any pets in my building, and for some strange reason, I don't have any missing pairs of socks. At least I hope not. I don't know. Maybe I forgot to darn a few pairs the other day, or... Well, there are a couple that I use for rags when they get too full of holes, but... Anyhow. But the substitute teacher episode, that really touches very well on all the fears associated with getting a different teacher. And during my time in elementary school, we did get a few substitute teachers that were tough to deal with. One of them, I did not agree with her pronunciation of a single word, and so I asked, "Teacher, I don't think that's quite right how you pronounce that." Looked it up in the dictionary. Next day, I got into trouble for correcting her pronunciation, which I'm still kind of bemused by, to say the least. And the love ducks. Oh, the love ducks. I'm certain we all have a certain guilty pleasure out there, and how Arthur was wearing the trench coat while buying the Love Duck CD, that's sometimes what I do when I go look through Lego aisles, because I might be a little ashamed of getting it. And this is something I recently learned, but in Arthur, the band name Binky is actually an acronym of the first names of the band's members. I have it written down right here. So it's Bjorn, Inga, Nero, Kira, and Sven. That make it up. Sort of like how ABBA is put together. Of course, I'd like to point out that in the original script I made a big error. The first part I described the band playing the music of Vertina as being Swedish, when in fact they are Finnish. I managed to correct myself for the portion about Matalia Musti. However, I forgot to correct the first portion. Just goes to show how scatterbrained I can be sometimes. In the previous portion talking about Bailey's artwork, that episode guest starred none other than sculptor Arthur Ganson, who appeared in a Word From Us Kids segment after the episode aired, and during one of the later seasons of when George is creating artwork, one of Arthur Ganson's artworks actually appears in the episode. And I'd just like to mention that I finalized the script of this episode just as the last few episodes of Arthur were showing on PBS. And for this time travel segment, I added a small portion about the final episode of Arthur and how we see the gang all together as adults. I think it looks pretty well. I mean, I can understand Buster becoming a teacher, or Francine and Muffy getting into business and civil service. But Arthur, I don't like his design very much as an adult. I think that a kid who grew up wearing button shirts and sweaters and jeans wouldn't go to wearing t-shirts all the time. They're just my personal opinion, but... But we wind up this half of the Iceberg video with The Curse of the Greaves, which was another Season 10 episode. See if you can guess where the number 10 is during the episode. I bet you can. Researching the curse of the kid that occurs in the episode, it came up with a few different ideas of how that originated. For one, it had to do with Babe Ruth being sold off, which would be the curse of the Bambino. And the other one was the curse of the kid, where this gentleman was bringing a goat to all of his baseball games until the manager of a park said, "Hey, you can't bring your goat in here anymore." And so the guy cursed the baseball field and the team that played there, so they'd never win another match. But naturally, all curses were meant to be broken, and you know how the Cubbies won the World Series not too long ago, so taken with a couple cents, maybe a nickel and dime, 15 cents. And of course, this episode featured the likes of Playman, Winland, and Batterea in the episode. And in Postcards from Buster, it later mentions that the Greaves players, Winland and Batterea, I think they were sold off to the Crown City Kings. This was another fun bit that we brainstormed because you know how I only produce some video every couple weeks, and I figured this would be an easy way to get out of producing another video, just splitting up the iceberg into 2 different parts. And it was a decent idea, heck of a lot of work, but I had a lot of fun putting this whole episode together. It was great to work with Viv from Arthur&BusterBFFL. If you haven't already, please check out their channel. It's certain to have something of value of interest based off Arthur, Odd Squad, what have you. And I myself felt that there really wasn't any better way to end this episode than with the clip of Larry King from Elwood City Turns 100. Rest in peace, Larry King. We all miss you. But that was part 1 of the Arthur Iceberg video, currently the most viewed episode of This is Public Broadcasting Season 5. Right now I think it just got up to 1,000 views. Hopefully it'll get more in the future. But in the meantime, thanks for watching and stay tuned for the next season of This is Public Broadcasting. I'm Captain Rutlidge. Good day.